they're spraying tourists with water pistols. But I mean, how do you differentiate between the tourists and the locals? That's why I'm going to wear a beret. I mean, they won't be able to and have a baguette and ride a unicycle. So I'll just blend in.
How good. I'm so jealous, actually. The Olympic fever, it's just, I love
15 million tourists there, saying, across the 3 weeks.
Oh, hey, Matty, you know what you're not going to do? Maybe you've already done it. I ran into Fletch today, and he, just by chance, did the same thing, and Missiles watched it. Just to get into the Olympic spirit, Sprint on Netflix. Have you seen it?
I haven't. I just saw it advertised then.
It's worth a watch.
I've heard it's good, huh?
Oh, it's outstanding, isn't it?
Yeah, it's building the anticipation for that 100-metre final at the Olympics, men's and women's. This Noah Lyle, the guy from America, he's the one that came out and said, I don't know why the NBA and NFL call themselves world champions when they win, because they're not the world champions of anything. And all the Americans kind of turned on him a little bit, but he's a big personality, and he's going for the Usain Bolt double, the 100-200 double.
Wow. Isn't that something like... When you think about that, there's like those sprinters these days, basically they've got two opponents. They've got to beat the opponents on their left and right, of course, but they've got to beat Usain Bolt as well. Everyone will gauge. If you win the gold medal in the 100-metre sprint, what an achievement. It's fantastic. But you won't be lauded. They won't be lauded as much as the person who will finally one day break Usain Bolt's record, if anyone ever does. I mean, it's, geez, you'll be able to gallop the bloke who does break Bolt's record.
Yeah, well, there's a bloke that came out at the Jamaican trials. He's not unknown, but he's relatively new on the international scene and went 9.72. Oh. So he's getting close.
A similar build, isn't he?
So he's very tall. He's jacked. He's a big, muscular, massive chaminda on him.
Yeah.
And a longer stride than some of these other guys.
You know what, right? So, Matty, I went through this and like, you're watching the girls and it's 1, 2, 3 Jamaica, you know, and they're just...
Yeah, they're so good.
The population for Jamaica is 3 million, which, for context...
Is it?
That's 60% of Queensland. It's almost half the size of Queensland.
I thought it was bigger than that.
That's amazing, isn't it?
It's amazing, and you look at the cricketers it's produced. Yeah. It's produced a number of good footballers, soccer players over the years. And what's amazing, right, about the Caribbean? This always amazes me. See, you've got countries like Jamaica, Trinidad and Tobago, but then almost joined, you've got the Dominican Republic and you've got Haiti, which are just all baseball. And I suppose a lot of those other islands, like Trinidad and Tobago and Jamaica, were colonised by the English, hence why they play soccer. And I suppose Dominican Republic, I reckon Dominican and Haiti was France, but Dominican Republic might have been Spain. And, you know, I think America got their claws into at one point, hence why they're baseballers.
Wow.
They say
Cuba the same.
They say Jamaica's like the Cessnock of the Caribbean.
It
produces all the athletes.
Yes, you got it.
Hey, Matty, the NRL's come out.
Actually, just to interrupt you for a second, there was a guy in Cessnock who got inducted into the Cessnock Sporting Hall of Fame, but he didn't turn up to receive the award.
Oh, yes.
Guess who told me that? The mayor of Cessnock when I was up there.
Is that right?
He said, do you ever speak to Matty Johns? I said, yeah, I know him. He said, well, I've got a bone to pick with him. We inducted him and his brother the other week into the Cessnock Sporting Hall of Fame, and neither of them showed up. Neither of them showed up.
Yeah, see, I didn't show up because I thought Joey was showing up.
Speaking about Hall of Fame, did you see the news, Matty, around they're going to add some more into the Hall of Fame, which is fantastic, and another Immortal. What I do love, and they've come out quite publicly, the National Rugby League, and they said, yep, David Thirsty Morrow will be inducted into the Hall of Fame. Gee, that's a nice tribute, isn't it?
Oh, that really is. I was unaware of Thirsty's health battle. I'd heard it a little while ago that he wasn't well, but then I heard him on the radio and I heard him with the continuous call, and he was calling well, and I thought, oh, okay. But I only learnt this morning when I heard that yesterday Ray Hadley addressed basically the panel or the committee which judge on Hall of Fame and whatnot, and told him how bad his health had deteriorated. That's a man. He's one of the great guys, David Morrow.
Yeah, so sad, but very, very nice touch, Missile.
They're saying 2 coaches are going to get inducted. Matty, could you pick, or have you got a short list of coaches?
I'm trying to think which coaches are already inducted. Is Wayne inducted?
No, I don't think
there's any.
I don't think there's any.
We couldn't find any.
There are contributors.
Wayne, yeah.
There's contributors. So you've got Ray Warren, you've got Peter Frelingos, JJ Gilton and George Piggins, Ian Heads. But there's no coach.
Jack Gibson, if he isn't inducted, I'd be blown away.
Yep.
If he's a gimme, and I'd say Wayne.
Yeah.
I'd say Wayne would be inducted. The Immortals is really interesting, boys, because you've got a situation now. It got reduced. Used to be 5 years retired. Now I believe it's only 3, which puts Slater, Cam Smith, and guys like JT, I believe, in the running that they can get it. I think it's a fait accompli that, particularly with Cameron Smith, he's going to be immortalised.
Yes.
At this point, I'm wondering what you're thinking, boys. I'm looking. When I first sat down, I thought, right, before I realised it was only a 3-year, it got reduced. I went Glenn Lazarus, Alan Langer, Brett Kenny, Steve Rogers, and I had another one there as well.
Lockyer?
Brett Kenny. I thought Brett Kenny. Yeah. And there's also, you got blokes like Brad Clyde. There's so many incredible footballers. Honestly, we oftentimes we always fall in love with the new acquaintance,
yes.
like the person who's just retired. We always do.
Yeah.
But I reckon in time we've just forgotten how incredible guys like Glenn Lazarus were. I mean, Lazarus's record is, in the modern era, unequalled. It's amazing.
And you mentioned Brad Clyde. Like he by the age of 21 had won 2 Clive Churchills, which is quite...
changed the way the lock forward position played for a long time. And we're only really coming out of it now. I mean, the lock forward back in the day was essentially, he used to play short sides. He was a hard worker, but he played short sides. He was almost like a second 6. He could ball play a little bit up. He was a short ball player. Traditionally, he played through the line. When Bradley Clyde came in, he became, the 13 become that really hard-working, almost front rower. I mean, Clyde, he'd be top in the tackle count, make 2 or 3 in a set of 6. The opposition knocked the ball downfield, and he'd get back in time for play 2s. He was an incredible footballer.
The only reason, well, I mean, there's other reasons because he's a superstar player, but the reason I think that it's probably going to be Lockyer is a few years ago they had this, the MENA League was sort of driving it, but they had this esteemed panel to vote on who was the Kangaroos' captain of captains. So of all the captains of the Kangaroos, out of those players, who would be leading that group of men? And they voted on Darren Lockyer. So wow. I just think if you've been entrusted by an esteemed panel with something like that, it's pretty hard to not get it, isn't it?
Yeah, you'd think so. There's just so many around. Like, we forget Sterlo.
Yeah.
Like, we forget Sterlo doesn't get a mention, and I just mentioned Ray Price before. Mate, Ray Price. I mean, you look at his record. Parramatta don't win a competition. Well, basically a struggling club. Price comes along and they just win. He retires and they don't make a final series for the next 10, 11 years. Like, there's just so many great footballers out there. I'm sort of getting that. Look, I don't want to say it's male, but it's not male. It's other people's opinion. Yeah. But other people are of the belief that it's going to be Cameron Smith, which he's deserving. He's going to be an immortal one day anyway. But it's interesting. I'm looking forward to seeing the short list.
If you go Cameron Smith, do you kind of feel like, boys, you then can't go back behind him?
Yeah, it's annoying when they jump forward and back. I'm just looking at the list now. So you obviously got Joey, and then it jumps back to Messenger and Frank Burge and Brown. Then it jumps back to Meninga again. Yeah. So it's a little bit, leaves you dizzy. I just wonder.
We had Norm Proven and that's right. It's been jumping backwards and forwards. Yeah,
it's confusing. If Lockyer gets it, do you reckon he'll call himself the 14th, like someone else calls himself the 8th?
The 14th.
The problem with the rugby league's 1 to 13, so you kind of feel like you're on the junior edge.
Yeah.
Hey, Matty, have you been following the Euros much?
Yeah, I have. Yeah, I have. It's going to be a great final. Yeah, I got a Pommy mate, and he was just hammering the English side. initially when they were just getting through. And I said, what are you going to do, mate, if they reach the final or win it? He said, mate, there is no way in the world they're going to reach the final, and there is no chance they'll win it. And I spoke to him this morning, and it's fair to say he changed his tune. It's going to be a great final. Spain are technically just such a great side, and I'm going to talk about this tomorrow with Maestro. Just about the young 16-year-old Spanish player. Oh, mate, hasn't he got a future? Of course, he's playing for Barcelona. His mother's Catalonian, his father's Moroccan, and there's a photo going around with him being cuddled as a child, being nursed as a child by little Messi.
Wow!
So you'd say there's a bit of destiny tied in there.
That's massive, isn't it? That age to be conquering on the biggest stage, that is huge.
Imagine when he goes to, like, Spanish schoolies.
Yeah.
Like, far out.
Well, Matty, I've been up at the Australian Schoolboys and Schoolgirls comp up at Coffs Harbour this week, and you're seeing like a 17-year-old, playing against the best, and you go, oh, geez, they've got a big future. But then you go, the Euros with a 16-year-old, which is just different.
It's hard to fathom.
Yeah,
it is, and I was sitting there thinking, what a future this kid has had, or is going to have. And you'll see freakish Brazilian talents. You often seen Brazilian players coming through at 16, 17, 18, and land at big clubs. There's been some success stories. Neymar is a success story, although I think he left Barcelona. He'll regret leaving Barcelona to PSG for so long. You get other guys, a fella called Rubinho. Rubinho arrived on the scene, went to Real Madrid, and was a phenomenon, but then just sort of petted out and went to Manchester City and just sort of drifted off. It'll be interesting with this bloke. I thought to myself, geez, some big clubs will be circling this guy. Then I went, hang on a second, he's playing for Barcelona. So he's already playing there. So, yeah, what a future. But it's been an interesting Euro. What's interesting, boys, is that it's been there's been a lot of 0-0 draws. I just think sometimes, with football, they're not immune to other codes like rugby league and rugby union in the fact that sometimes, you got to tinker with a rule or something just to loosen the game up a little bit. It just seems at the moment with the football. I watched a game the other night. I forget who it was, and mate, the defence was just so superior. There wasn't any football being played.
The difference for that one is then you watch the Copa Americas, and they're much more attacking. Something about those Northern Hemisphere folk, they're just a bit boring, aren't they?
Just the World Cup. I think South Africa, their last 3 World Cup wins or something, they've scored 1 try. Their last 3 World Cup wins, 1 try.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. There was, I remember a number of years ago, I'm talking 25 years ago, there was always the discussion with football saying, just about things that they could do to liven up the game. One of the ideas they had, which was floated there for a little while, was making the goals bigger. But that's gone by the wayside. But yeah, I just find it funny, boys, or unusual, you'd say, that in each of the sides there's so many world class players, technically gifted players, yet it's been really 0-0 draws and 1-0s have basically been the tail of the tape.
Nice gesture, nice touch last week. Darren Hargreaves breaks the all-time Roosters record. How fitting, Matty, for him to get sin-binned. That was a nice way to celebrate.
Yeah, it was. I tell you what, I remember when he was at first at Manly. I run into him one day. I was doing a little bit of work with a young half who Jared was mates with, and Jared had come across, I think, from rugby union, and was just sort of come into his own. Just got graded at Manly, and I didn't know him at all. I'd say, g'day, how you doing? I thought, geez, a big lump, and who would think 307 games? And the Roosters Club. I mean, 1908, and from Dally Messenger to Dave Brown, right through to Freddie and Minnie and Teddy. Jared, has played the most amount of games, 307, and given the way he plays and the position he plays, that is remarkable. Yeah,
and he's a big bopper, which many people wouldn't know this, superstar golfer, apparently. So,
really?
Oh, I think he's like off 1, 2 or 3 or something.
Nah. Scope said that's an urban myth.
Is that an urban myth?
He's told people over time it's a complete lie.
Is that right?
Yeah, it got busted on the
well,
Mowers
there
Club.
you go. My apologies. Matty,
You're spreading a lie.
have a good show tomorrow, mate. We look forward to seeing it tonight.